Thanks very much, Danielle. So, folks, first I'd like to introduce Dessie from St. Joseph's Grammar School Asaph in Donegal to Fáilte Road, Dessie. And to Rachel from Rowendale Integrated, you're very welcome as well, Rachel. And welcome to everyone joining us in the chat tonight as part of GEG. Our plan is to share our practice and stories of impact at our schools. And we're going to start with Dessie from a secondary perspective and then Rachel and myself from primary perspective. So Dessie, I believe you're going to start and take it away for us.
Thank you very much, Chynel, and good evening, everybody. I've got the best part of this evening because from a post-primary perspective, I'm always amazed by the creativity that comes from our primary colleagues, and often find that what we do in post-primary is a wee bit boring at times. But I had the absolute pleasure of producing this short presentation at our event in Dublin, as Danielle has alluded to, just to share our journey in St. Joseph's Grammar School in Scoil. So first and foremost, hello, Dessie Tennyson. I'm one of the Google trainers, and I am a senior leader for Irish medium education and also EdTech in St. Joseph's Grammar School in Donegal. So wear plenty of hats, but certainly have a definite passion for EdTech and for trying to use technology to improve teaching and learning. And I would say more than anything, to help teachers reduce workload, and those some of the passions that I have. So I suppose if we look at St. Joseph's Grammar School, we've just recently celebrated our 100-year centenary last year. Founded as a girls' convent school, boarding school for girls, predominantly, and in 2003 we the introduction of boys of co-ed again as a grammar school. So 2010 saw the introduction of an all-ability Irish medium stream. We have a feeder school for Irish medium for 5 Irish medium schools and 32 in total throughout the school. So I believe we're genuinely a hybrid school and really unique insofar as we offer the blended approach and the all ability and the grammar school approach in grammar education as well. Life in St. Joseph's, and I'm going to talk about as such. I joined in 2017. My main responsibility was Irish medium education, so there was trying to keep Pandora's box closed as of EdTech. Was I sort of tweaked around the edges of things that were going on. So what was life like in pre-2018? So a high-performing grammar school of academic excellence, adapting to all-ability Irish medium education. So we were in the 7th year of that when I had joined, and I would have to say a very traditional rural school with approximately 600 pupils. So that's the starting point when I joined St. Joseph's Scoil. And use of technology was exclusively in the computer suites. Anybody found with a phone, it was put to the office and a detention issued. Now we have embraced and made slight changes, but we also are very firm about communication and a very firm communication policy for our students as well. So and we believe in an organic approach of CPD rather than forcing people to, you have to do this. We always run like a come and have a taster. So we started in August of 2018 with 18 teachers, wanting to find out, heard about this Google Classroom and wanted to see. So all about informed practice. Here's the good things, here's the bad things. And we started off with about 18 staff, no pressure, and just let's find our feet on this. On the left-hand side, I think most people will recognise sort of the shared drive in RM staff, and that's where all of our resources still are for most people. But we, from a training perspective and the ability to embrace online and mobile, we needed to move away from that. So we had moved very quickly in 2018 to a Google Classroom, and that was the first introduction to Google Classroom as a learning tool, and that run right through to 2022. Although you'll see the last post was December 2021. I'll talk about our changes later on in the presentation. So 2019, building on 2018, we'd lost 3 of our teachers along the way, so that was pretty productive. With 15 And then out of that, we had 3 people had volunteered to sort of divide and conquer for the rest of the staff. So it's not listening to the same person. So we then had 30 members of staff. This is out of a staff of probably about 45 or 50 at that stage. So it was quite a good chunk of people who had, again, turned up just to hear more. They had listened to colleagues who'd been using it or testing it for the year and wanted to learn a wee bit more. And then this thing, which we won't talk about, arrived. And this sort of accelerated for absolutely all of us. So I'm just going to gloss through 2 really important things for me during that time, and that was the importance for staff. For me, I believe that we need to invest in staff, and that's in building staff's confidence. So we would have had our weekly check-ins for staff from an Irish medium perspective every Friday. For all of our staff, we had staff upskilling again, drop-in, or requests, which often came. How do you use Quizlet? How do you use this? How do you use that? And then we would have had staff quizzes, health and well-being for support as well, whether that be just sharing pictures of Woodby Garden. I'm a firm believer, and the person responsible for EdTech in school, I'm really, really clear on this. There is genuinely no such thing as a stupid question. And I believe firmly, because most staff that are sitting there are afraid to ask a question in case they seem like they're a stupid one. And as soon as you embed this and live it, we've certainly seen a huge uptake from our staff. So back in 2018, we had very little technology. I had 15 iPads for Irish medium students, and they were repurposed for COVID. And we very quickly had staff looking for some form of stylus. So we invested in Apple Pencils for our staff. And we then started to see a huge acceleration in use of Google Classroom. Unlike our primary colleagues, we're not as creative, so a lot of it is based on exam work and ensuring that work is marked in a traditional manner, and that was the quickest way to get people on board with our EdTech. For me, our weapon of choice was our iPad, but the engine driving it was Google, and everything that we did on the iPad had to work with our school laptops and still works with our Surface Pro. And that's our bottom line. It has to be, I suppose, device agnostic and work across the way, with a key focus on Classroom, Drive. Google Photos really, really important. If you have a suite or a number of iPads, in fact, if you take a photograph on your iPad, it'll appear on your Surface Pro or your school device instantly as well. And then Google Forms and Google Sites, which I'll touch in later on in this presentation. Google Forms, we're all used to them. I'm not going to bore you with what we do, but from the impact that we have seen it from an all-ability Irish medium school, it is really, really quick way to ascertain weaknesses across the board. So these were just simple 3 grammar exercises, 2 grammar exercises, and then we could very quickly in the year pivot. It didn't take too long for it to work, and then we could have a week's focus right across all of our Irish mediums subjects of this is the grammar point for the week, and then we could plan through and tweak. Very little work involved. We have 235 Irish medium students. At this stage, we had 201 when this screenshot was taken. So as well as that, we've seen, and I know anecdotally speaking to other teachers in other schools, when we returned post-COVID, there was a massive fall off in some schools of the use of Google Classroom and EdTech tools. We haven't seen that. We had one person in the school in red, and that was the school principal, who doesn't actually teach, but everybody else is using Google Classroom. And the main use of that is the orange, and that's for absolutely everything: sending work, collecting work, marking work, etc. So a vast range. So really delighted with the journey that staff have made. And in particular, when we asked about Google Classroom feedback, it was using the Apple Pencil and using the comments. And those comments were either using voice dictate, some people were using Mote or Vocaroo, but those are certainly for us really, really useful tools that help staff and also help pupils. So post-COVID use of Google Classroom, form class, every form class is a Google Classroom. All pastoral leaders are in that, the year tutor, the vice principal. It's also used for sharing pastoral notes for counselling, etc., and mentoring. I have one for all my Irish medium students. There's one for SEN and LSAs, which I'll talk about a wee bit more in detail. And then obviously we still have the staff one, which maybe isn't used as much as it used to be. So on the left-hand side, you'll see just my use of it in Irish medium. It's the quickest vehicle for me to get a message to students at home, or whether that be signing up for the first option was for senior cooking classes through the medium of Irish. Very, very quick way to get a snapshot of who's interested. And on the right-hand side, a really, really useful confidential tool is the ability to send a message to a student to say, you have a counsellor's appointment tomorrow, so there's no chance of that being overheard in front of anybody else. And the same applies for mentoring. So that's been a big win for us, students in particular. So what has been our Chynel, our impact? And I've chosen really two here, one from staff and one from our LSA. So just without we'll name anonymous, but a very experienced teacher, very well qualified, and she would have said as a young teacher, it wasn't that she didn't want to use it, but there was no skills and there was nobody there to assist, and it just played a very, very minimal role. But COVID came. This lady was vulnerable, so this essentially became her home for 2 years, like a purpose-built box to keep her safe. And through the use of her Apple iPad, her pencil, and her Google Classroom, she recorded every single lesson for 2 years, and now has a bank of those for her students at GCSE and at A level. So a fascinating amount of work that was completed and also stored and reused. So for her, she said it escalated her training and her competence, and maybe paired, patient or valued. I'm not sure if it's those, but I think it's really important when you do have people who are keen or have a need that you certainly take that time. It's holding the hand for a period. So when I've asked her, look, sometimes maybe people of an older generation are described as a technophobe or Luddites, and she certainly didn't feel that was her. And now she uses and embeds fully the use of IT in her classroom, and is actually genuinely excited and looking forward to any updated training as possible. So that's a massive win, and the ripple effect that has in the staff room is phenomenal. So going to fire on quickly, folks, just conscious of time. Our learning support assistants, we have invested a lot of time and money in. They all have an iPad and an Apple Pencil. They all have a tailor specific. They can access teacher training, but they also have had specific training for our LSAs. And they have an iMessage group for whether that be technical support, or that would be, can you cover student X, Y, or Z? Used for parents, they have an individual, so any child who's in level 2 or 3 in the new code of practice would have an individual Google Classroom with the Senko, the LSA, the child, and the parent. And that has been a phenomenal turnaround where parents just no longer feel out of the loop. Access arrangements for exams can be quite laborious and labour heavy. What our Senko has managed to shift all of this online in a Google shared document live, where everybody's in and there's no where is this document, all tailor threaded and has been approved by SIA also. Pupil booklets, so trying to tackle those, they're often outdated or we find a mistake instantly, we have to wait the year for it. So we've had a number of staff moving from booklets into Google Sites, and they certainly have found Google Sites really, really useful. So I'm just going to jump here, hopefully I'll be able to show you a few. So I'm going to start with this one. I hope I'm not showing that. It is, yeah, perfect. So rather, this is back to where we had RM staff. We now have moved out of our Google Classroom for staff, and we now have a live tile of resources where how to archive classroom resources, or any videos that were created, they're all there, and a very quick way for staff to access relevant resources. And just show you another example here, and then we'll fly on. This is our literacy support program, which is shared, very, very professional looking, but easily pulled together. So this is our resources that are shared with our parents, and they can have access to online reading resources for students. And last one, let me just show this one here. And this is our Irish medium home economics. So this teacher has managed to pull all of her units together across all. For me, sometimes Google Classroom can be really untidy, whereas this is a very quick way to have all resources there. So these are her Google Slides, her links to Quizlet, and to her Word Wall, which is another great tool if you're not using that already. So that should be me back to here. And I suppose ultimately, what next? And for me, two things that are really, really prevalent for what's happening is we're going to continue with the organic approach of CPD. It's not compulsory, but pop along, grab a cup of coffee, or we provide the coffee and the biscuit. It's going to have to be action short of strike compliant as well. And obviously, our next big stage is embracing, which we've already started the journey with staff, an introduction to artificial intelligence. So exciting times ahead for a lot of us in the ed tech, but that's our, I suppose, from my perspective, just a quick overview of our journey of
We're going to pass
impact.
over to Rachel from Arundel Integrated, who's recently with her school been certified as a Google reference school. And Rachel, you're going to tell us a wee bit about that and about the journey this evening.
Yes, so I am the ICT coordinator and Year 5 teacher at Rowandale Integrated Primary School, and just back, I think it was in April, it was just after Easter, we were recognised as a Google reference school, which we were delighted about, as we are now the first primary school in Northern Ireland to become a Google reference school. So I'm just a little bit about me. I'm also a Google certified trainer, and recently, just back in February this year, became a Google certified coach. So I want to just take you through the kind of 3 steps, I suppose, that we have been on our journey in the last 3 to 4 years that kind of led us to become a Google reference school this year. So the first one was the use of Google for Education tools throughout the whole school, and that is something that we have been working on really since COVID, and since we've come back after lockdown. It is something that we wanted to keep up and it was so important for the staff after all of the work that they had put in through those periods of lockdown, that momentum kind of kept going, and we really could see the benefit for the children as well. So that was something that we have continued to work on. Our staff professional development then, and getting as many of our staff as possible to complete the level 1 and 2 exams has been another big step, which has just kind of happened organically, I suppose, in a way, because we have been working over the last 3 years with the children and trying to use the tools more within the class. Gradually over time, more and more of the staff have become a lot more confident and have wanted to take on the task of completing the exams. And then this year we really began our journey with our investment in Chromebooks. So I'm just going to really quickly take you through a few little slides just covering those 3 points. So the first one really is the use of the Google tools. Our staff over lockdown created so many resources to be used right from foundation stage right through to key stage 2. Google Slides is probably one of our most widely used tools, and especially with our foundation stage teachers, they have made such a huge bank of number and phonics activities which work really well for the foundation stage children to click and drag. A lot of our foundation stage children would be accessing their Google Classroom through iPads and tablet devices. So Google Slides works really, really well with those through the iOS app or the Android app, and the children are able to use their finger to draw lines and things. It just makes it very accessible for our younger children. I love the A4 portrait template that's available from C2K, just for such a wide range of different activities, desktop publishing, newspaper reports. These 2 examples here are just a little fact file that my class were doing on animals, and then a little persuasive writing brochure. And, the children get so used to how the different tools within Google Slides Works and being able to crop their photos into different shapes and add their backgrounds and so on. So, you know, it really doesn't take very long to get the children, especially in Key Stage 2, upskilled on how to use these tools. Jamboard is another firm favourite of ours for a lot of our assessment for learning, our KWL grids, kind of all of our open-ended questions, and our foundation stage children would use Jamboard a lot on the interactive panels for click and drag activities, and there's a really lovely little rainbow writing Jamboard that they have for practicing all of their letter formation and number formation. So it's another firm favourite, and one that we have used in staff meetings a number of times as well. It's great for staff to jump on and be able to collaborate together on a range of different activities as well. Google Drawing, this is one that is a firm favourite with my class, I have to say. And I mentioned a few times in the few presentations that I've done over the last few weeks, whenever I first opened Google Drawing, I heard people saying about how amazing Google Drawing was. And I looked into it and I thought, it doesn't look very exciting. It just looks like somewhere to be drawing shapes and adding in little arrows and call outs and so on. And I really didn't see the appeal to it. And I didn't see that it would be a tool that I would use. And then I saw a lesson on Twitter one night that a friend of mine had shared that she had found from this lady, Emma from Canada, who is a Google innovator. And I got my class kind of on board with trying it out, and they absolutely loved it. So it was creating this picture on the left. It is a piece inspired by Roy Henry Vickers. And then the one on the right, this piece of ocean art. The ocean art activity was one I have done over a number of years as part of our water topic. And normally I give it as quite a free activity, and I would put out all of my art materials and let the children just decide, do they want to do watercolor, do they want to do oil pastel, and just kind of give them a bit of free choice. And one wee girl that day said, could I try mine on Google Drawing? And I kind of thought, well, yeah, you could. And all of a sudden the whole class jumped on board and they were all given their ocean art a go on Google Drawing, which was amazing. And I think these pieces that they've produced are just lovely. So Google Sheets as well, another great one that is my children in my class go back to again and again at golden time and different times of the year. Can we do another pixel art? So this was a template from Eric Kurtz, and there's the website there. I've got a little takeaway sheet for you at the end to get these templates, so I will pass that on. So then our staff development, the kind of second element, I suppose, to our journey. And as I say, it has been ongoing over the last 3 years. This photograph was from a day that we spent, a staff development day just after Christmas in January, where we all came together with our Surface Pros. It was kind of the first day that we had a really intensive training, I suppose, in a way, with our new devices. And on this day, we completed the Google Tools in Person training, which is an excellent course that is very well designed. And the idea of it was to try and get teachers back on board with using Google Tools, because so many have dropped away from using online learning again since COVID. So this was a great way to just show teachers how to bring it into their classrooms. And I think it was after that day that so many of our staff felt the confidence then to go on and complete their level 1 and 2 exams. So a lot have availed of the Certified Educator programme that has been run by Canopy this year in partnership with Education Authority, and the use of the Google Workspace skills platform. So we can pop that little link to that up into the chat. By completing it through the certification portal, you're able to get your free vouchers for completing the level 1 and 2 exams. So this is the stage that we're at now. 3 years ago, or well, just over 2 years ago, there was only 3 of us that had our level 1, and I was the only person with level 2. Last year, there were more coming on board. And then, as I say, it really is this year, I think, which was an accumulation of the training on offer from Canopy and the day that we had in January that really led the confidence of our staff to just increase to be able to have so many now certified. And then the final piece in the jigsaw really is with the Chromebooks. So I'm just going to very quickly race through our journey with Chromebooks. We currently have a set of around 40 and we have another 18 on order. And that really is all down to our Parents' Council. We have a very supportive Parents' Council at Rowandale who do a lot of different fundraising activities and events for us to enable us to be able to build up such a great set of Chromebooks to be used with the children. And just very quickly to say, I think there is a bit of a misconception about Chromebooks that maybe they are only for Google tools. And this is just showing you the range of different applications that we use on the Chromebooks at Rowandale. And it certainly is not just for accessing our Google Classroom and using our Google tools. They are really used for everything that the children would have previously used other devices for, which is great. So yeah, I think that's me, and I have that little link to the little takeaway sheet. I'll pop that up into the chat.
I'm
now.
Chynel. I'm a P1 teacher, the ICT coordinator, a Google coach, and just recently certified as a Google trainer. I'll start with our Chromebook journey. It started in 2021. We had a donation to the school that was used to purchase 16 Chromebooks. We set up a Google Calendar for booking for the whole school, and we quickly realized the value of the Chromebooks for supporting classroom work. So I pitched for another 8 Chromebooks, which I generally do when something's working in the school. I put my hand out for more money, and I called the project Tech with Tots. And that was because I'm based in foundation stage. I'm a primary 1 teacher. My way of trying to encourage staff to get on board with the Google Workspace for Education tools was to show them how it could be done even with the littlest. And then I got 8 more through, I think it was possibly the Engage money for SEN. And then we have an additional 8, which we purchased this year for an accessibility project. We're working with Text Help using their Equatio tool, and we use those for that. Tips for if you are getting a large amount of Chromebooks is, it was a teacher suggested this to me, was to use letter trays to store the Chromebooks, which is cheap, cheerful, and definitely works. You can see it in the picture there in the slide. And what you can see above it is a shelf where I have cable tied all of my plugs together so that they can't be swiped, which I found as soon as I had the first 16 Chromebooks, everybody was taking the Chromebook chargers because it fits a Mac and it fits other charging devices. So get them cable tied together and get them up high on a shelf where nobody can take them away. So the Tech with Tots project was myself and another foundation teacher, and we wanted to see what was possible with the younger children in terms of the Google Workspace for Education tools, as well as some other tech tools. And it was our effort to encourage our colleagues to take that brave step to begin to think about their own provision of digital activities. So our plan was to begin in a small group session of 4 Chromebooks with 8 children, and we had lots of playful activities to bring this approach along. So it wasn't linked to their learning initially, it was just a playful time. But very quickly we noticed that children and adults' confidence increased. So we integrated the Chromebooks into 2 parts of our daily routine, which we call our Busy Ant Club, because we do the Busy Ant Mads in St. Peter's, and Drawing Club, which is our literacy time. And if you call something a club in primary 1, everybody wants to take part. So that's a wee tip for anybody who has numeracy or literacy scheduled on their timetable. So our activities then became themed to our learning goals. And we had targeted use of slides, Jamboard, drawings, and other extensions like Mote and Equatio that our primary 1s took to so easily. Google coaching that was happening in the school allowed both myself and a colleague to support staff across all key stages who showed an interest in what was happening, and they were highlighting their willingness to explore this in their own classes. So the impact of what we were doing. Of course, I've lost my notes here, so I'm just going to have to wing this. We noticed that, of course, the confidence of the children in using all of the tools was a huge big thing. There was an element of peer support that appeared between the primary twos and the primary ones. We have a composite class, and very quickly noticed that our primary twos were becoming mentors to the primary one children. It started the beginning of our Google certified train, our educators, because the staff who were involved in the project, then we began to support them in their achievement of the level 1. So people are horrified when I tell this story that when the Windows Surface Pros came in last May, I didn't want to just give them out to staff and then they would get put into a store and forgotten about. So I challenged the staff. I had certified as a coach, so I had some licenses for the Canopy Workspace skills that we were trying out with some primary 5 students. And so I challenged the staff to get into a Google Classroom, which I set up, and complete a few bronze badges, and then they could have their Windows Surface Pro. And while that is maybe shocking to many, the staff took it as a bit of crack, got on board, and very quickly had a couple of bronze badges and came to collect their Windows Surface Pro. Not only did I notice that they had their bronze badges, but within 10 days, we had 29% of our staff finished all the silver ones and 43% of the staff finished the gold badges. And there was a bit of a competition too between the staff if they could bring the competence and the confidence levels on the Canopy skills down to see who could get it the best. So it was a bit of healthy competition that was happening in the school. So in terms of, and you can see that I nicked this slide off, Rachel, so our development over the last couple of years has been, we started off quite small. You know, level 1 in the school was 2 members of staff, which is myself and the foundation colleague, 1 at level 2, and then I was a certified coach. But with support from EA and Canopy, the Workspace skills has allowed us to increase the level 1 and 2 certified educators in our school. We now have 2 Google coaches in our school and 1 trainer, and that has made huge developments in terms of our staff confidence and also in terms of the projects that we have running in the school. I've circled the Google for Education reference school because, inspired by Rachel and her story about her school and their journey, we are making an effort to follow this path next year. So I know that I'll be in contact with Rachel to get some tips and tricks off her so that we can achieve that. So one of the biggest projects that we've had in the last couple of years was our digital leaders. We never had digital leaders in St. Peter's, and I guess that was my fault. Again, I wanted to do digital leaders when I saw a need for it, when we could grow it from what was happening in the school and that it would have longevity. It just wouldn't be another tick box going on in the school and something else for me to take care of as the ICT coordinator. So we got together, myself and a colleague, and we decided that in year 5, the children would work in class with her. We would set up a Google Classroom. We would have we were able to actually use the Canopy Workspace skills, which I had negotiated with my principal that we would use some of our licenses that I had for the children. And our primary 5 children did the bronze badges for the Workspace skills. Plus they had other tasks to do that we had sourced from the Safer Schools NI, so that they had some of the online safety and digital citizenship as well to do. And that proved really popular. And by the end of the year, the children received their certificate to show that they were a certified digital leader level 1. And that's just a title that we have created in St. Peter's, but the kids were very excited to achieve that. Then moving on into year 6. So year 6, we decided to use our Workspace skills and also the Google tools as well to broaden what the children were doing, to reach out to the rest of the schools. So year 6 then became part of an outreach project where they could go into classroom and work with other classes and also prepare presentations for the school, take part in school publications. So they were using tools like sites and forms and slides and docs, and also the Be Internet Awesome, the Google safety awareness tool, as well as Adobe, to put together what they had to do. We put requirements on the year 6 digital leaders. They had an exam to do to show that they were ready to move into year 7 with the appropriate skills. Their publications were put onto a website that they were responsible for designing, and the website contains all of the online safety information, digital citizenship, as well as all their presentations through the year. They had things like escape rooms to do. They had to go into classrooms and they had to work with the children. And now moving into year 7, we brought it back to the year 6s, and they decided that in year 7, the digital leaders would have a new focus and a new name. So this will be our first year having DigiKids. So we had a competition to design our digital logo, and you can see it just up here on the right-hand side. We've turned that into a badge, and our digital leaders, they highlighted the fact that St. Peter's, we're honest, our coding and computational thinking is not strong in the school yet. So they have decided that they will next year do some training themselves for this, and then they will take a 4-week block program going into every class from primary 1 to primary 7 and work with the adults and the children to deliver Google CS first, and also the Just Too Easy J2 code, so that we can upskill the teachers and the children in terms of that area that we deemed as missing in our school. And this has only really been possible with the Google Workspace for Education tools, and how the children have become so confident and competent in their use in the school. So I have put some links in there. If you'd like to join our Tech with Tots classroom, feel free to jump in and you can have a look around with that code. And then the Digital Leaders website, you can have a browse at that and see some of the projects and the things that the children were up during the year. So that is, if I can just stop sharing.